Hello, my friends. I am your host, Daniel Wilcox, and you are listening to episode number 29 for people listening on the podcast. I was doing it with my fingers. That's why I'm laughing. Of the Writer's Chair podcast. And it is Tuesday, the 21st of July, 2026, as I record this. In today's show, I am very, very excited to be talking to multi-passionate fiction author Johnny B. Truant about writing 1.5 million words per year and what caused that engine to stall over the last couple of years. His fundamental sales philosophy that is helping him escape Amazon, why he has returned to social media after a several-year hiatus, how he writes in pretty much every genre without worrying about a pen name, and for fans of the self-publishing podcast or those who are listening to the Smarter Writer Show now, I get him to choose between Sean and Dave, so stick around for that. But before we get into all of that, here is my personal update, and I'm going to keep it short, unusually short, I'm fashionably short for myself this week, just because there's a lot going on. As you know, if you listened last week, I am moving house. I will be in 9 days moving out into a brand new place, which is hopefully going to be my last move for a while for many, many reasons, just because I've moved a lot over the last few years. So hopefully this will be a nice little sticking point for a while, a little home base, if you will. And yeah, so that's consuming a lot of my time. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see some of the emptiness in the background where we've been packing and sorting some stuff out. In and around that, I am also juggling the job. I am also juggling writing and also a bunch of website work that has come in, which is very, very awesome for me. And I'm very, very excited to be working on authors' websites. But it's just a lot packed in right now. So that's kind of everything all consuming and all that I've got going on at the minute. Just trying to think, still working on some books, still got some things ticking away in the background. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I'm happy to share at this point. So I will plug just before we jump into the episode, and I know this has been a few weeks on the docket. My 7-day free email course is now live officially for people who are looking to finish that first draft, who want to find out the fundamental 7 principles that I used to get myself from struggling writer to finishing over 70 books, and principles that I still use to this day. I have used in coaching authors for the past half a decade at this point. So if you want to find out what my biggest lessons are, you just go over to danielwilcox.com/finish and all the information will be there. It's absolutely free. Jump on, and then this time next week, you'll be much, much more benefited by having 7 incredible lessons in your inbox. So, blam, there we go. That's all I've got this week, and I kind of want to shut up because this is a very long, a very juicy interview with Johnny B. Truant. Just for a little bit of context, he is someone who basically him, Sean Platt, and David W. Wright are the 3 original hosts of the self-publishing podcast, which was one of the first writing podcasts I listened to after Joanna Penn. And back when I started my journey in 2014, 2015, I can almost single-handedly point to these guys as one of the big reasons, not the only reason, but one of the big motivations in keeping me going and keeping pushing me and believing that I could do something with my writing. So I have appeared on their podcast back in, I believe it was 2018, with my co-writer, Luke Condor. That was kind of awesome, jumping on their show and having a bit of a chat with them. I have been wanting to speak to Johnny one-on-one for years. So having the chance to bring him onto this podcast and talk to him about just a lot of what he's got going on. For people who are unfamiliar with Johnny, he is the author of Fat Vampire, which got turned into a series on Syfy, starring, his name slips me, but one of the Tom Holland's best friends in the film is the lead in Fat Vampire. He also wrote The Artisan Author, which is kind of the alternate approach to what the rapid release strategy is. So if you're an author who is slower to write, who doesn't want to be just spinning their wheels, just churning out books week after week, and wants to find ways to really focus on the principles of marketing and audience building to make true fans rather than worrying about just playing to the algorithms, then this is the episode for you. We go into it in much, 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 much depth. So as I say, Johnny, incredible author, incredible entrepreneur, has quite the head on his shoulders for just communicating ideas. So I keep saying I'm going to stop blathering. I'm going to stop blathering. If you are ready, I am ready. Why don't you pull up a chair, grab a notepad, and let's get speaking to the one and only Johnny B. Truant. Johnny B. Truant writes smart books for smart readers. He's the author of Fat Vampire, the book that became Syfy's Reginald the Vampire, starring Jacob Batalon, plus over 100 books across most genres. His books are layered, intelligent, and often funny. Johnny loves what he does, never cuts corners, and would rather earn 10 true fans than sell 10,000 copies. Johnny B. Truant, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Can I do both? Can I sell
Yes.
10,000 books and get the 10 copies, 10 true fans? Can I do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have to kind of make a bit of a Faustian deal to make that happen, or it's a bit of blur boundaries. But I was saying just before we recorded, I'm going to say it just kind of for the context of this conversation. So, I am a big fan of yours, as I said off air. Like, I'm one of the original listeners to the self-publishing show or self-publishing podcast, and I was on your show back in, I think it was like 2018 with my buddy Luke Condor. We were talking about Hawk and Cleaver stuff and everything else.
The Wayback Machine.
Yeah. And then you are one of the authors of Write, Publish, Repeat, which was kind of unofficially almost like a foundation in some circles for the rapid release kind of movement that became that, interestingly, I got caught up into. So I went from 2018, I went into writing fast. In 2020, I wrote 26 books in a year. From then on, I ghost wrote, I think, over 70. Well, I've ghost written 40 novels. I've done a bunch of my own books. And I got to the point where I hit burnout and, all the kind of general story that happened. So when it came to your book, The Artist and Author, that came out at beginning of this year, end of last year, I'm one of the people that really, really reached, because it was kind of calling out to myself about this whole, not necessarily slowing down for the sake of it, but, kind of really looking back at the art and questioning what has kind of become the norm in this sphere. So that's kind of context, and it is stuff that we'll kind of all get into. But for people who don't know who you are, your journey, the kind of things you write, are you happy just to give a little, who is Johnny B. Truant?
Yeah, sure. So I've written over 150 books, and because of the context of the conversation that we're about to have, Write, Publish, Repeat did become kind of the signal fire for rapid release, but that was not the intention. And I don't really like rapid release. And then I say that, and then people are like, 150 books. Well, that's a side effect. I write fast, and I write best when I write fast. So if I slow down, the books actually get worse. And we're talking over the course of like a 15-year career at this point. So anyway, I've written in pretty much every genre. The only ones I don't really do are like romance and historical fiction. Sean and I did technically try romance for a while, and we were not suited to it. It was not a good fit. And then on the nonfiction side, I have the questionable references that you're referring to, Write, Publish, Repeat, the self-publishing podcast. We had a conference here in Austin for 4 years called the Smarter Artists Summit, and a bunch of other stuff like that feels very nostalgically wonderful now, looking back on it, especially since the industry has changed so much and we kind of can't do that again. Like, that was of a time. But I focus much more on fiction these days, although I do occasionally, as you mentioned with the artist and author, do still talk to the author community. So yeah, I wear a couple of hats.
And one of the things I get from you is that it feels weird, because most guests, when I interview them, it's normally like, here is a book that I'm talking about. But
yeah,
I kind of feel like I'm a bit of a stalker, and I've just like watched your journey for 10 years. And like in a way that I'm not necessarily studying is a strong word, but I've seen the evolution, at least from, what you project outside, what goes on internally. I have no idea, but from the outside, I've seen the evolution of Johnny B. Truant from the self-publishing podcast into writing so many books. I remember back in those days watching like the Dream Engine and Dead City and all these different books pop out from your brain. And you now seem to be in a position in your author career where that has slowed down. It's less about the writing and more about the selling. But from what I've seen of your other podcasts and things you've interviewed on, that seems to be a much happier place for you. So can you talk a little bit about the change from what was very, very hardcore online digital selling to some of the stuff that you're doing now?
Sure. So the first thing that I feel I want to say about that is that although my MO did change and the way that things look did change, and I am happy where I am now, it was not a running from. It was more an artifact of or a result of the fact that the industry kind of changed and my circumstances kind of changed. So when I was writing,
changed in quite a quick period as well. It was a few years of just go.
Yeah, but self-publishing years, right? It's kind of like dog years where it's an accelerated thing. So during those years of hyper-production, first of all, I feel like we were one of the first who was really talking a lot about that. And we were talking about it in terms of like, the intention was a little bit more like, it's not a big deal. Don't make it such a big deal. Like you can do this. it became a little bit more aspirational, like, oh, I have to write that fast because we were talking about it. And that was never really the intention, but we were always sloppy about it, about conveying that difference. So at the time, though, I had just started writing with Sean Platt, with whom I've written most of my books. And that is it's a very particular kind of relationship, like professional relationship, that just was amenable to like very fast production. And Sean is an excited person and he conveys excitement. And so it was like, hey, let's write 3 books. I remember there was this time when he said, I have 6 pitches for you. 3 are serials, and we're just going to write the first one and see which one we want to like green light. And then 3 are, what was the other? Oh, they were just like comedies. So they were all kind of serials, but there were 3 serious ones and 3 comedies. Well, we ended up doing them all. So that's the sort of thing that happened. It was like, well, they all sound exciting. I had the capacity to write fast, and I was in a place where I kind of could do that. What's happened since is, so Sean and I kind of professionally separated as far as the business. We used to co-run all that stuff together. We still write together, although we haven't written anything together since the separation, but the intention is there and we kind of started some stuff. It's much slower. So my last book, the one that I have a current Kickstarter for, I wrote entirely myself, and that's a very different experience. It's slower. It feels different. And it's just a different energy. There isn't that back and forth. So this all goes to say that I slowed down in part because of that. That change created the effect of slowing down. The other thing that happened, though, was I kind of took it sounds more like romantic than it is, but I took like a hiatus. I just kind of didn't show up for a while in the author community. And it lasted about 5 years, because it's a long story, but it made more sense for me to focus on writing and less on speaking and that sort of thing. So when I came back to it, it was like when you see, if you have like a little nephew or something and you don't see them for like a year, and then you're like, oh my God, you got so big. So it was kind of like that. When I came back to the industry, it was like re-entering colder water than I remembered. And it was kind of a shock. Yeah. And it seemed like everybody had taken write, publish, repeat. Now, I don't mean to draw like a direct line between this, because there's a lot more going on, but this is the way that it seemed. Write, publish, repeat was supposed to be like persistence and workmanlike, keep creating. But that did kind of birth this rapid release thing. And by the time I came back in like 2022, I think I went to the last 20 books conference. I was like, oh my God, this has become a thing. Like, this is like, go as fast as you can, burn yourself out. If you don't keep ahead of the Amazon algorithms, because that's what everybody was focused on, at least in the world that I was seeing, just Amazon, just the algorithms, and you wanted to try and stoke them as much as possible because there was nothing else that people were paying attention to as far as promotion. And I know I'm generalizing, but that meant like that was the norm. And I just remember being like, fuck this. Like, I do not want part of this. And I actually kind of had this moment where I was like, do I even want to do this anymore? Like, I was always gonna write because that's kind of who I am, but do I want to be part of this world? Do I want to try and like do any of this? And that's when I started thinking a lot, and I had a conversation with Joanna Penn that was kind of influential, that eventually it was like, well, what if we just did the 1,000 true fans approach, which is the artist and author thing, and just like focus on quality over quantity in terms of relationships with fans. So rather than trying to get as many people as possible, what if you kind of curate relationships with a smaller number who really, really love you? That 1,000 true fans thing that Kevin Kelly talked about. And so all of that together just kind of conspired to put me into this slot where I'm happier. But it wasn't entirely, I am going to write fewer books because I'm writing too many books. I was actually perfectly content. I never burned out. But coming back, it felt like, I don't know, it just felt so mechanical and cold, and it didn't feel like people cared about the stories. They were just like, where's the next one? Just keep churning out stories. And I don't know, I cared about mine too much. Even if I was producing a bunch, it was like I cared about all of them. And I'm sure that these writers cared about their stories, but that's not what people were talking about. They were like, how can you stoke the algorithms? So all of that kind of conspired to make me go, I've always chosen what I want to do. I've never chosen what I should do by anybody's definition. I'm a contrarian in that way. And so that was the main reason. Where the two main things were, I wasn't working with Sean nearly as much, or at the time, basically at all. And I was looking to sell more because the industry was changing, and that kind of like artisan approach required things that I wasn't doing already. I couldn't just release onto Amazon. I needed to start a direct store. For me, it meant looking into live selling. It meant learning how to like run ads, which I had never really done before. But all of those things came out of this, like, I'm not going to focus on Amazon. I'm going to focus on my own thing, building my own thing. And that derailed me from writing for a long time. The book that I just published is like the first book I've written in a year and a half, maybe more. And the one before that was like just an extra thing that came out because it was like supposed to be a stretch goal for a previous Kickstarter campaign. So as far as like intentionally writing a book, it's been, I don't know, 3 years. It really sucks. So yeah. Anyway, that's a super long answer to the question. Feel free to pick it anyway.
No, I mean, it sets up. And if you don't mind, I've got like a little section from the newsletter where I'll drop you an email about it. But you wrote in your newsletter, just to set the context for people, I used to publish a lot of books. For a while, I wrote 1.5 million words a year. Picture the full Harry Potter series sitting on a bookshelf plus another half. But I think I've published like 150,000 new words in the past 3 years. The thing is, it's hard to restart a stalled engine. I always wrote like wildfire, but suddenly I couldn't rub two sticks together. The stories I started just petered out or never found their footing. This is me, a productive writer, admitting that for a while there, I forgot how to write. And that kind of resonated with me. So similarly to, and not that we're drawing like exact parallels, but like, I obviously had a very prolific 2020, and around 2022, I had a lot of personal upheaval and turmoil that kind of I had to focus on health-wise. It took me out of the game a bit. And I'm now in a position where for the first time since really 2022, my life is settled. Like I'm kind of picking up speed again. And so in the last few weeks, I've found 4 different books that I've had that are basically just the first drafted. They're unfinished. They're waiting to get across the line. I need to edit them. And I've been working on those, but I've really, really enjoyed revisiting those books. But there's a hesitation in, well, how do I know when's the right time to release them now? And 2 are nonfiction and 2 are fiction. So how do I balance speaking to those audience? Because I don't want to miss that traction because of the algorithm, but at the same time, I don't want to run like ads over here and waste all my money and stuff. And so I just found it really, really interesting that especially for me, the last 3 or 4 years just feel like a blink of an eye. I'm literally picking up these drafts and going, well, how have I not touched this in 3 years? And we're suddenly here. And you're right, like getting that engine starting, getting that momentum, like I guess the only way to do it is to start and keep walking. But there's also a thickness, like a fog of the fact that for the last, because I've been in the industry since 2014, and I've got all this knowledge now that I'm like, I must use, but then the game's changed in many ways. So do I just drop that, or and it's really hard trying to balance, like, what do I know versus what is working versus what do I have the capacity to do? So how do you approach like making those decisions and moving forward with the projects you've got at the minute?
Well, so I'm going to answer your question in terms of what I do and how do I approach it, but please take it in that vein. I've just
can I just say as well, it's one of the reasons like artisan really resonated, and obviously like, you know, you're on the show is I speak to so many people where it's like, this is how you do something, or this is how you don't do something, or this is what's working, this is what isn't. And like, one thing that because I've coached authors for a few years as well, one thing that I always really try hard to say with them is like, your journey is going to be different to the other person I speak to. And I love that you're throwing nuance into the conversation.
Well, I don't need to be an authority anymore. I'd rather just be truthful. I have this allergy to bullshit. It's why, like, I could have been an internet marketer. I kind of started in that area, and I could have made a lot of money, way more than I'm making now or then, but I just can't do it. I just can't bullshit enough. So yeah. And when I see other people doing it, it really bothers me. So when I see people saying there's one way, usually there's a system they're selling or something, and it's fine. I don't mean to be that cynical. But no, for me, I just, because we were on the self-publishing podcast, and because write, publish, repeat did become write and publish and repeat as fast as possible without attention to anything else or your health or anything, I'm just kind of wary of like, please don't take what I say as advice. I think that the bedrock stuff that I'm going to say, I think is very true, but you have to decide the nuance and the way that it applies to you for yourself. So what I was what I was going to mention is that I think that knowing too much can actually be something that can work against you. It certainly happened with me as we started talking more and more about actual story, like the structure of a story. I never thought about that. I just wrote. And once I started thinking about, well, is this the end of Act 1? Is this the end of Act 2? And it was like, that screwed me up. Like, I needed to not know that. I needed to just go. And it reminds me of this musician that I love, Bob Schneider, who will talk about how he does his best stuff when he's, it's most interesting when he picks up an instrument he doesn't have any idea how to play. Because if you know how to play something, then there's this like doctrine or dogma that goes with it. That's kind of like, well, this is the way you do it. So anyway, all of this is to say that I believe that the bedrock things that are true of authors and readers have not changed. But I'm talking real bedrock. So that means I like to write books. I would like for you to read them. I would like for you to pay money for them. The reader wants to read books that are good. And if like, that's the kind of bedrock level I'm talking about. And then everything else can stack on top of it. So I'm not looking at like, what is the best strategy for posting on TikTok? Like, I'm not on TikTok. I wasn't on any social media until about 2 weeks ago when I finally caved and got an Instagram account. But that has always, as stupid as that is, advice sounds, it remains true. So I'll give you kind of an example. It's not a perfect example. We can suss out some others. There's like a way to run ads, right? Like there's a way, there's a system, and there definitely are things you need to know when you run ads. Like I'm not saying there's nothing you need to know, technically, but I had been approaching it like, oh, let me just find the hooks for this story and describe it just so. And when I was running Kickstarter ads for this campaign, and then I wrote an email to my list, which you probably got, where I was talking about like, man, I just love the feel of like a premium edition book. I talked about like being in the Stephen King library back in the day. And I was like, this is kind of cool. What if I just use this as ad copy? It's not the way you're supposed to run ads. It's like first person talking about, how much I love premium books and blah, blah, blah. And then I added a CTA and whatever else. And those ads did really well. So like that sort of thing can happen. I think that we can go down the rabbit hole of this is the way things are supposed to be done. And we forget that it's one human talking to another human. And that you need to, here's my entire philosophy of selling these days. You need to put the right offer in front of the right people in the right way. And the right way includes the right time. It includes how often you need to hit them and that sort of thing. But ultimately, if I put a book in front of you that you are interested in, and you have the money and are looking to buy a book, you will buy that book. I don't have to do trickery. Like I don't have to, there's no algorithm in you that I have to hit. And everything that we do, from social media to ads to trying to hit the Amazon algorithm, all boils down to trying to find the right reader in the right way at the right time, or give the right offer to the right reader at the right time. The problem is I don't think we always think about what that process is, like what we're actually presenting. So take Kindle Unlimited. Now, I am not going to shit on it. I am going to shit on it for me. Like, I do not want anything to do with Kindle Unlimited. I think it really sucks for me. But I know plenty of people who absolutely love it. I know that the aforementioned Matt Dinneman, although I think it was before we started recording, has said great things about it and how Lit RPG would never have gotten a foothold without KU. So
yeah, it was huge.
Yeah. So that's, again, I'm not universally shitting on it, but I think it's factually true that that is a different kind of reader than the kind of reader that I have courted and that I want to court. So that reader, the right offer for that reader is immediately, like, give me that offer now. I want it now because I just finished the last book. It's cheap, or in KU, it's essentially free because they're paying their monthly subscription. But it's not that different from like a 99-cent thing. That's the offer. It needs to be cheap or feeling free. And the other things aren't necessarily as important. If it's available, it's from somebody that they feel they would be interested in, and it fits the budget. But I don't want those readers, in part because they don't want me. Like if I were to do Kindle Unlimited, it wouldn't work. My books are too weird. So for me, the right reader is the person who doesn't mind spending $45 on the Fat Vampire Omnibus in paperback, or the person who's like scrolling through Facebook and discovers an author's signed book bundle that I put up there. And, I've found a lot of the people who come through my particular breed of Facebook ads, again, not all Facebook ads. You're targeting different people, and it just happens through the way your books are. It's all AI now. Those people will surprise me, and I'll just get like a $200 order from them or whatever. And they're always people who came from my meta ads. Not that I have a ton of them. And the people who show up in person, I need to attract them with like cover shock. Oh, that's a really cool cover. And they're interested in meeting the author, and they're multi-book paperback readers. So that, I think, this is again a super long answer to your question, but like it's the right reader in the right way, the right reader, the right author, the right reader in the right way. And that's all selling is. And so I just say, well, what in that do I want to do? And I don't want to play the rapid release Kindle Unlimited game. Others can, God bless them. I just don't want to. So I just keep working. I'm real stubborn, and I try to find, I'm like, I want this result. This is where I want to sell. So let me just keep banging my head against it, even if it's not working, until I find a way to make it work, rather than I'm going to contort myself into what's hot right now.
Yeah. It does feel very much like there's, and I've said this because I stopped listening to sort of author podcasts and things for a while. And when I, had the health stuff, but then also just to kind of clear myself out of what was essentially becoming trends in the indie movement. Like you have the KU sort of whale reader movement of writing fast. Obviously Kickstarter got huge. Brandon Sanderson had huge success on there. And like a lot of other people have done really, really well on Kickstarter. And similarly to your point, like it's not putting them down, but it's not like a formula that is just step by step you can follow. And I did have the thought a few weeks ago of just how, if you zoom out on where we're at now at this particular stamp in time, it seems ludicrous that Amazon is everyone's first port of call for publishing a book, because Amazon have made it very, very easy to publish a book, and no qualms against that. Well, generally most people tend to shop on Amazon, so it's really nice to have your book on the Amazon store. But when you think of, if you imagine Amazon as a library, like a physical library, the chances of you being seen in that library and people finding your shelf, finding your index number, whatever it is so minuscule that I almost, not reprimand myself, but I almost like, for years I've been like, I need to be seen on Amazon, and I need to, because I got caught up in that movement. Like and again, no shame to them, they're doing amazing things, but I wrote a lot with Michael Andley at one point, and he's had a lot of success in KU with all this series and all these books going on. And so it has been a bit of like a fundamental shift, and I was kind of having these thoughts just as The Arts and Author came out. So again, like timely book, of how do you find other people? How do you find these other ways of selling that have higher profit margins so that one sale means more for less effort? I am someone who is very, very, I'd say probably ambiverted. Like I like my alone time, but I do very, very well at conferences. I've had tables before and I've sold very well to people because that's kind of my background. And so seeing the kind of stuff that you're doing, and just with the rise of AI and how much people are pushing for like simple answers quickly and efficiently, it does very much feel like that human connection is needed more and has more value than maybe it did sort of a year, 2 years ago. I don't know if you found that sort of being out on the road with people.
Yeah. Another thing that I would say is kind of axiomatic in the same way that the right customer, the right offer at the right, in the right way, is that you are ultimately selling an experience. And that's true of anything. If you're selling floor polish, you're selling an experience. If you're selling Tesla, you're selling an experience. But certainly for us as authors, we're very much selling an experience, and it's easy to see it. The experience that your typical whale reader wants is a different experience than the experience of somebody who comes to a live event and buys a book. When you're a real whale reader, your experience is give me never-ending stories, give them to me quickly, and give them to me at a price that I can afford to keep getting them quickly. That's an experience, and it's a legit experience. It's not the experience I want. The experience that I'm selling is I'm baked into that experience. And the same with you. When you say you sell at conferences, they're getting to meet you. Sometimes there's that moment where somebody doesn't know that you're the author, and they just think that you're just selling somebody else's books or whatever. at least with me, because I have so many different books in different genres. People think I'm like a bookstore or something. And then despite me having a sign with my face on it and wearing a shirt that says author, people still don't know it sometimes. And when they realize it, after they've been talking to you for a while, it's usually very cool. It's usually like, oh, you're the author. And then it's like they're extra interested. And those people are coming away, if they buy a book, with an experience. Well, even if they don't buy a book, they're coming away with an experience of meeting an author, having an interesting conversation. And if they do come away with one, they have a signed book that they met the author, that they had a cool conversation. My book, Unicorn Western, I've learned through just trial and error, does very well if I say it's like if Stephen King was on acid when he wrote The Dark Tower. So that's not something that's like baked into that book automatically, but those people know it. So they then they get to tell their friends, or they get to read it with the context of, it's like I'm reading The Dark Tower, but Stephen King was on acid, which he wasn't. For the record, he was on cocaine and a lot of alcohol. But it's just a different experience. And I've chosen to pursue the other experience, which again is, without these words being loaded, it's more of a quality over quantity, not of the work itself and not of the people, but of that reader bond. Because I know Damon Courtney, Book Funnel, has this story about his son reads a lot. And he was reading some series and he was, oh, Dad, I'm reading this series and I'm on like book 8, whatever. And Damon's like, oh, well, who's the author? And he's like, what? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And like those really voracious readers often won't know the author, or if they do, it's like they're just one in a pool. And, I want to be someone's favorite author. That's kind of the goal, or one of their favorite authors. And they really, really like what I do. And they're waiting with bated breath. Oh, Johnny's got a new book out. And I don't have to sell them. I just have to be able to reach them. I just have to be able to get in front of them. And repeat con buyers will put your books in front of themselves just by showing up year after year. People that are on your email list or I suppose social media to some degree, they get to know you. And so that's what I look at it as, is you're always selling an experience, but I'm choosing this experience, which is just as valid.
Yeah. How are you funneling a strong word. Are you getting people to also sign up to like a mailing list at the table as well? Is it kind of they buy a book, they go in the mailing list as well?
Yeah, I have found that to be of limited value in terms of new releases. Now I do have some people, there's one, it is fun because you get to know your individual readers because you met them. And there's this one woman who every time she contacts me will send me a photo of herself. And it's like she wants me, and they're fine photos, right? So she wants to
just to check.
Right, it's not a dick pic. So it's a friendly thing. It's like, hey, you met me, whatever. But now she just includes them with that. She knows that I know who she is, and I could tell your first and last name if I wanted to violate confidentiality. I know exactly who that person is. So those people, she bought a trilogy for her son afterward, and she's been communicative, and several other people have. But in general, I have found that con buyers are con buyers, and it's even more particular than that. It's even like convention buyers are different from street festival buyers. So they're both live events. Their behaviors are different. Like a con buyer, when I say con, I mean conventions, like comic conventions or whatever. They will, this is obviously the broadest of brushes, but they usually come in, and people who stop by more often than not, let me just put it like this is the general avatar, like everybody's different, is they know there's going to be authors there. It's not a surprise. So they come in like, oh, what do you have? Rather than, ooh, an author, which is what I get at a street festival. They're like surprised that I'm even there. And so they're already in kind of a book buying mood to some degree, and they just want to see if you fit them. And then they will often buy multiple books, and they're more likely to buy a full series than just about anyone else, even though they just met you. And the reason is because they tend to buy at conventions. They tend to not buy between conventions. So if somebody is meeting me and they think that I might be a match, and this convention is only once a year, then they'll buy a full series because they're like, I read a lot. I need a year's worth of books. Let's go for it. I'm not going to stop along the way. So I do collect email addresses. I always ask. 95% of people say yes. And they're just kind of on there, but I don't find that they repeat buy between the cons. I have to go back usually to that same convention to get them again. And in which case they're like excited. They're ready to buy another series. But I do add them to the list, and that has a double value because they may not buy books, but they'll be reminded when you're going to be back at the next convention, or, oh, I wasn't. So I do local events too. And I may have met them at this festival, but then I tell them I'm going to be at this one, which is half an hour away. And so they'll go to that. So I do collect them. I just don't know how valuable it is in terms of selling books online.
Yeah. So you've written in a lot of genres. You have all of these genres under your name. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is about pen names and, you know, someone switching from horror to fantasy. No, I've done it before. I've used pen names for different things. But it seems that in this environment, you're almost uniquely primed to have your name on all of the books across this smorgasbord of things, so that no matter which customer comes over, you at least have a shot at potentially putting a different person to different things. Have you ever kind of doubted that journey of not using a pen name across your career? Because I know that a lot of people just, I feel like you have two options. You can either be known for your name, or you can be known for what you write in that genre.
Yeah.
And as I say, it seems you're uniquely primed at this point for events like this to be able to use that to your advantage. Is that something you found?
Well, again, I'm stubborn, and I decided I didn't want to deal with pen name bullshit. And so that decision was made. You know, it's like deciding a scientific truth is true and then trying to find experiments that validate it, which is not the way you're supposed to do science. So that's kind of the way that I approach it, is I just don't want to do pen names. But I also think that here's another axiom for you. I am not alone. I am not the only person like me. And I don't want to read only one genre. And I am more likely to find an author who I really love. Like, you know, I really love Stephen King. I really love, okay, I can only think of one person who I really love, but I do. I have authors that but I look for that author. I don't look for what's the next sci-fi book or whatever. I look for what that author has done. So, and I like to read many different genres. So I just say, there are people like me out there. I just have to find them. They might be harder. As far as in-person sales, I think that you're right. I think that because they are forming a bond to some degree with me, then I become the X factor. It's so much that if I can't get to a person before they, like, if I'm talking to one person and I can't get to somebody else, they'll usually leave, because they aren't looking just for the books. They're like, if I can't introduce myself and become part of it. So I don't really worry about that. I think that if I were to do something that was really far off, in kind of a socially questionable sort of way, like if I did kids books and erotica, believe me, those would be different pen names, right? But I do have a book that's like it's a hard R sci-fi book that Sean and I wrote called The Future of Sex, and that's just under my normal name. Well, it's actually under both of our normal names. So the thing about the pen names is, again, I think, what kind of reader is your perfect reader? My perfect reader is interested in me. The perfect reader of, like, somebody who's doing the KU thing or the Amazon centric thing, their major discovery tool is not their email list, although that may be part of it. It's an algorithm, and algorithms don't match based on names. I mean, they will to some degree. Hey, the author you follow has a new book out. You've bought books from them before. Fine. But that's a minority. It's more like, okay, you just wrote a space Marines story with a thrown together crew on a crusade to do whatever. And there's this other popular book that is a space Marine story with a thrown together crew. And so you can pair them together, and then it's about, like, the name doesn't matter as much. And it could even be a distraction, because then all of your books are being recommended to everybody in a way that makes Amazon say, well, that didn't work. But I ignore Amazon. My books are there, but I could not give less of a shit about those sales. I mean, if they took off, it would be great. But I've actually started raising all my prices over there because I just don't care. I just don't care. And if I'm getting screwed because Jeff Bezos has taken 30% of my money versus a sale that I make, I'm like, I guess I'm raising that book price 30% because that irks me. And I don't sell well on algorithms anyway. If I was, like, killing it, on the algorithmic front, it would be different, but I never have. I'm just not that kind of writer.
Yeah, I think it's like I've got a range of, I've got urban fantasy, I've got a POC, I've got horror, I've got a little bit of fantasy as well. And it has reached that point where selfishly, I just want to have my name attached to a book. Like, I want people to know that it's me that's written it. And so I don't like the idea of creating all these different aliases, even if they're kind of somewhat similar to what my main name is and people guess. So it's coming around again to that idea of my books have gone okay in bursts on Amazon and then they just die. And it feels like going on this journey at the minute, like I'm kind of doing up all the front and back matter of my books and I'm preparing to start selling at things just because I'm sorting out all of the POS and everything else. There's a real reconnection I'm having with some stories that I wrote fast and then threw out and almost they kind of swept by me. So there's been a real experience of getting back in touch and being like, oh yeah, I wrote that, and rereading it being like, oh, actually, I quite liked that when it had not even entered my mind because I was already thinking of like the next 3 or 4 books. I remember seeing on somewhere that it was you opening up the box of books of all your books that you'd stocked in and bought for your first sort of conventions. Was that a nice experience for you to be able to pick up these paperbacks and be like, oh yeah, this is what I've done that was previously all digital?
Oh yeah. I that is I've actually talked about that. It's like you, at least for me, I focus so much on digital that it's like we had paperbacks. They were technically available like way back when CreateSpace was a thing. But it was like, they were just kind of like ghost books. Like I knew they were there, but they didn't count as real. And when I ordered my first set of books, it was for the very first event I did it was the first Author Nation, and I was speaking, and they gave me a table at Reader Nation because I was a speaker. So it was free. And I was like, what the hell? Right? Like I was not looking to do that. And so I did order some books in, and the first time I was like, oh my God, like it was a weird experience and a really cool one to like look and be able to be like, look, I did that, and I can see how thick it is and how pretty it is. I mean, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think I've done a really good job with my physical books. I've seen plenty of people's physical books that I just don't think are that great. So like, they're really pretty, they're really nice. And I mean, what you said about like having multiple genres for live events is absolutely true. So they're like, wow, this looks great because it's a thriller or something. I'm like, well, but you haven't like even read the back yet. Yes, but it looks great. Or this looks great because it's sci-fi, or this, it's kind of like I have something for everyone. But man, yeah, I love the physical books because they feel, this isn't meant to sound pejorative or whatever to people who aren't doing physical books, but it made me feel like a real author. I was like, now I'm a real author because I'm doing paperback books, just because I could feel them. I could touch them. Like we live in a world that's so digital where we don't get to touch and hold our stuff. I would like to add one clarifying point, if I could, to the last thing.
No, we don't have time.
Well, yeah, because I want to reiterate that what I am saying is not something that you should take and do. And the reason is, I'll give you a very specific example. So the book that I just released is a thriller, and it's very Frida McFadden. Like that's a perfect comp author. I think it's got a little more layering than she typically does, but it's very, very close. And so I'm like, okay, so this is a Frida McFadden style book, and those are the people who I can reach. And then I thought, if I were to just keep writing these, and I only wrote thrillers that could be set next to Frida McFadden books, I could make a killing. That's always been true. And that's true of the pen name question. It's true of the write in one genre thing that people always give it as advice. That is good advice for the right author. It is not good advice for me. I don't want to do it. So even looking at that and saying, man, I should do that again because it would be more successful, I'm not going to do that. Like the next book I write is probably going to be like a dystopian, or it might be the next unicorn Western book or something like that. So I am making this choice at my own detriment. So I just want to be clear about that. But I do think that the breadth, like you said, at a live event I actually think it's beneficial.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously life is very, very digital. You mentioned a bit earlier that you took a long old break from social media, but you have returned. So I wondered what the kind of thought process was behind jumping back onto Instagram.
Yeah. So interestingly, well, I don't know if it's interesting. I think it's interesting. So I kind of got away from that, and I kind of talked about it I don't want to. That's a weird argument that I was going to make, so I'm not going to make that. So what I was going to say is like just straightforward. This comes down to my personal preferences. I can't stress that enough. My personal preferences win over good strategy 100% of the time. I don't do things that I should do. I do what I want to do, not advice to follow. So I don't like social media. I don't like it, or at least until very recently. And it's because I started on Twitter when Twitter was a baby. And Twitter was cool. Like it was awesome. It wasn't overcrowded. Everybody didn't feel the need to spout off with their own political bullshit or whatever. Like people didn't get into fights online, and it was a lot of fun. And I had a lot of early traction there. And Facebook, I think, could have been that. And, but then it all got very toxic, and it became overly monetized, and the algorithm stopped showing to your actual followers. And every time I went on Facebook because I went less and less. And so I'd go in there and I would go like the way that if you're scared of horror movies and you just kind of like, I don't want to look, like I just need to click the button.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to see, it always made me sad, right? Like the doom scrolling is doom scrolling for a reason. Yeah. So I eventually said, screw all of this. I'm just not going to do it. And so I deleted all the accounts. I deleted my Facebook account. I deleted my Twitter account, which before it was X. And I just didn't start. And I'd hear like, my daughter at the time was a teenager, so I'd see them doing like TikTok dances. I'm like, well, that's stupid. I don't want to do that. So I just didn't do it. I was just like a curmudgeon, get off my lawn, because I thought it was ill-fitting to me, and the newest stuff just felt kind of dumb and trendy. And I didn't like the idea of trying to master it. I'm putting that in air quotes for somebody who's audio only, meaning that I wasn't actually organically being there. I was trying to do some sort of a strategy, because I don't want to do that. So I just didn't do it for a long time, and I just did email. And I think I talked about that in The Artist and Author too, that it was kind of like a weird stand, like this is how I'm choosing to do it. But very recently, over the past handful of months, I started to realize, well, the world is changing, and people don't respond to emails nearly as much as they used to. Like it used to be, I could send an email, I'd get a conversation going, I'd get to meet people, they'd reply, they'd take action, you used to be able to write blogs. Like I haven't done a lot on Substack, but it used to be, you get a bunch of comments on wherever you were, you could leave comments. But anymore, everything got a lot more transactional. And I thought, damn it. Number one, I miss that. I miss being able to actually talk to readers and reach them in a personal way. And number two, I think that it's all happening on social media. So I kind of like said, my daughter and wife use Instagram. And I was like, that I wonder if it doesn't look that bad. Like when I see them, they aren't doom scrolling on Instagram. And so I kind of like asked people I know and said, am I going to get into like the dumpster fire? Am I going to get into flame wars? Like I tried to do Reddit for a while, and man, Reddit can be vicious. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to be yelled at and flamed when I go online. Like I'm just trying to share stuff. I don't want to see people fighting. And I kind of like said, am I going to get into that if I get into Instagram? And everybody kind of said, well, if you curate things and you don't go down dark corridors, and you can't control people who come and bitch at you, but you can then ban them or remove comments or stuff. So I said, okay. And I'm brand new. I mean, I have less than 200 followers now, but it's kind of cool because in addition to being able to actually reach people, not reach like trying to put things in front of them, but in terms of being able to like kind of have conversations and be in the same space. And in terms of, there's a lot that I wanted to share. Like I like something quirky or funny that amuses me that isn't worthy of sending an email, but just a little thing. Or like I had so many people at cons. I had this guy across from me once who does like a con every weekend. And he was like, why? He's like, you just get somebody to take a picture of your booth and be like, I'm here at Planet Comic Con in Kansas City. He's like, what's the harm? Because you can kind of let people know where you are. And I see Mark Lefebvre on there, and he's always at cons showing pictures of the skeleton that he brings with him. I think he's like Barnabas Bones or something, Barnaby Bones. I don't remember, or his dad shirts or whatever. And I'm like, I kind of wanted to do that. So that's basically the reason. And so far, so good. I mean, it's only been maybe a month tops.
Yeah, Instagram's my platform of choice. I'm on others to promote stuff like this, but it's a very deliberate. I use one of those aggregator apps that puts your content out to everywhere. So I use Instagram, but I'm on the others just to share this content to reach audiences I might not otherwise have reached, to bring them back here. But all the activities on Instagram, it is, for me anyway, one of the nicer places to be.
Do you find that aggregator approach is it mentally healthy? Like, do you get all sorts of bullshit coming back at you because you sent it to somewhere that you don't actually participate?
No, I haven't. To be fair, I don't go on the platforms to check the comments or anything. Yeah. But I also argue, because a lot of the content I create for here is video.
Yeah.
The comments are buried much more in videos versus sort of like images where you can see them a bit easier. But if people are seeing the video, they're likely on a scroll feed, so they're not really going to get too into the comments. But also, I don't really show much content at the minute that's too, it doesn't really kind of raise people's hackles or anything, as far as I'm aware. So it's been good. It's getting slow attention. It's a slow build, but it's something that I'm just testing it at the minute. I'm kind of testing it for a 3-month window to see how it performs.
Yeah.
But it's doing well, and it's nice for me because I can have conversations like this, and obviously, I get to promote people like yourself and the things you're doing. But then the sub side of that is I also get a little bit of extra promotion as well. So I've tried to build a system that is easy for me to manage with, because I don't want to spend, like, I work in digital marketing in a day. Like, I don't want to spend hours sorting out more videos and content and everything else. It's low effort for, at the minute, low reward, but it's a reward. So yeah, it's an experiment.
Good.
Yeah. But we are getting close to time. So what is next for Johnny B. Truant? What should people be on the lookout for with what you're working on?
Restarting that flywheel, man. I use that. You brought it up. Well, you quoted me. By the way, it's fun to be quoted because I don't know if people do that with
Hear
you.
it back in a British accent.
Well, that too. I'm like, man, I sound classy. But I was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Whoever wrote that's pretty profound. But it is. I've talked about this a lot with my wife because I did start down this. I can, I do everything myself. I do have it. Like I hire out cover designs and that sort of thing, but I do everything myself, as do most indies. And so there's only so much I can do and pay attention to. And I was paying so much attention to building the website and learning to run ads and learning to do conventions and buying stock and all this, that I let the writing atrophy. And when you let the writing atrophy, I don't know if this will shock anyone else, it also means that you let new releases atrophy. But I was in a position where with my website and with like my store, my Shopify store and conventions, it didn't matter if I had new releases because people were coming to me new most of the time, like ads. People were seeing me new. It wasn't like existing people were running into me very often. So because of that, it was okay that I wasn't writing new books. But then recently, number one, creatively, like mentally, it really bugs me because like I'm a creator, I should be creating. And so the fact that I've spent several years not really creating sucks. Like that was getting to me on a deep level. But also the whole like new release machinery and running campaigns and getting back in touch with an audience who did care about new releases. That has been a slow restarting of a flywheel. And it's like once a flywheel is running, it's easy. You just give it a tap every once in a while. But getting that damn thing started it sucks. It's hard. So that's where I'm right at the tip of now. Like the terminal Kickstarter is going well. It's not going like crazy well, but it's going well. And so, I'm going to finish that. And then I have a special edition of Fat Vampire that's also going to be Kickstarter. And man, is that going to be swanky. That is going to be a really, really cool thing. But I need to keep producing new books. I need to keep running campaigns. I need to keep talking to my readers. I need to keep doing some of the same things. I've been too much all over the place with the intention of getting that flywheel moving again. Because although I probably will not be going back to 1.5 million word year pace, how about not a 0 word per year pace, right?
There's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, like what if I did 5 books a year or something like that, And if I'm writing with Sean and we get that, because that's a flywheel too, that thing's rusty as hell. So like I get that going and, we can write fast again. So yeah, but it's not, I don't have an exciting answer to that, but I think that while I'm doing all of that, it's almost exclusively focused on some variety of direct sales. Again, I plan to continue ignoring Amazon. I love you, Amazon readers, but I don't like that guy with his hand in my pocket. And the algorithmic advantages have not been good enough for me to offset it. Yeah. So writing more books and reaching more of my people in direct sorts of ways.
I hear that. I am definitely falling off the Amazon train. But we are now coming up to the end of our time together. I have a quick fire round for you, which
Sure.
I don't know if you're prepared for at all. But the idea is I'm going to throw 10 questions at you as quickly as I can. Reply back as quickly as you can. First thing that pops into your head. It's all in fun. People in the past have gone on 5-minute tangents. Take it as you want it. But are you ready for your 10 questions?
I am. And I know you just said go on 5-minute tangents if I want, but I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to try and be succinct.
Okay. All right, question number 1. What's the last thing you do before you sleep?
Well, right now it's watch TV. I need to read. I'm trying to re-steer that ship, but it only works about 50% of the time. So it's either read or watch TV, and then I fall asleep.
Do you prefer paperbacks or audiobooks?
Paperbacks.
Would you rather fight a unicorn with no horn or a minotaur with no legs?
That's a really good one. I'm going to go with the Minotaur because he's going to have a hard time catching up with me, whereas the unicorn could still trample me.
I mean, it's a horse.
Yeah, it's just a horse.
Yeah. What was your dream job as a kid?
To be a writer, believe it or not.
Genetics or philosophy?
Is that a follow-up question, or is that or is that
my next question?
Oh, okay. Both. The answer is both. So just for those of you out there in listener land, those are my 2 degrees. And it's funny that you know that. And genetics and philosophy make their way into both my books. So they counterbalance, and their Venn circles don't overlap much. So I'm gonna cheat and say both.
Both. How much money would you have to be paid to step back into the lab and examine another 500,000 fruit flies?
Oh God. I think I'm very hard to buy. It would depend on if there's an end to it. If somebody said for a year, then you could probably tempt me with multiple 6 figures. But if it was like any longer than that, like no, not going to happen. I can't mortgage my life like that.
Austin or Ohio?
Oh, 100% Austin. No disrespect, Ohio, but 100% Austin.
Sean or Dave?
Oh, that's hard. I'm going to offend either of them. I'm going to, sorry, Sean, I'm going to go with Dave just because Dave has some really funny, morose things going on. But again, their Venn circles don't overlap very well either, other than the fact that they're both creative. So I'm tempted to say both, but I don't want to say that twice. Sorry.
Well, I thought you wouldn't answer that one, to be fair. So.
Well, yes, I refuse to answer it. No, it's all in the spirit of good fun. And everybody knows that Dave was always the most beloved of the 3 of us. Mm-hmm. I feel like if Sean were offered Dave or Johnny, he would also say Dave.
Yeah. What time are you most creative?
In the mornings, 100%. Trying to write in the afternoons is not that great. Although there's this annoying thing that happens right before I go to bed where I get real creative, and then sometimes it keeps me awake.
Oh, fun. And what one book would you recommend above all others, excluding your own?
Oh, that's a fun question. Probably Dune. Dune is definitely one of my favorite books. Yeah, I'm going to go with Dune. And so when I met Kevin J. Anderson, have you met Kevin?
I haven't. I've spoken to him.
Okay, so Kevin took over the Dune franchise. He co-authors the Dune books after Frank Herbert died, and he co-authors with Brian Herbert. So he's continued that. Yeah. And so when I met him, I said, "Man, Dune is my favorite book." And he goes, "It's funny if you know Kevin." He's like, "Really? Don't you think it's a little dry?" But Kevin's got these terrible dad jokes. So yeah, but Dune 100%. And I'll tell you why. It's because it's this fantastical sci-fi fantasy hybrid that does the best job it can to ground all of that fantastical stuff. I don't like it when it's just like, there's magic. I mean, I will accept that, like the Harry Potter world. I love that. Okay, there's magic. But you give me some bullshit reason like Superman has powers because of the Earth's yellow sun. I'm like, no. Explain to me why a yellow sun gives this dude powers. And Dune has thought out, okay, all the fantastical things that happen, it's plausible what they say. You know, years and years of training and all the tricks that the Bene Gesserit can do, or like the finely honed, roughly pseudoscientific sorts of things. And there's a section at the end of Dune about the ecology of Dune and how the sandworm cycle works. And I'm like, I'm in. The dude did his research, and I believe this.
Did you think the film did the book justice? or at least part one of the film?
Well, part 1 and 2. There's 2 that are out. I love the Denis Villeneuve Dune. The David Lynch one, I don't know so much. Where I think Sting was like Fade. No, I don't know that I buy that. But the new ones, I love them. And what's so funny about those new ones is I've heard a lot of people say they don't like them at all because they're too confusing. And the answer, you need to have read the books, which is not the way that a movie should work. But I like it because I love the books. So I think they're fantastic, those movies.
I was bumping up my TBR. I've still not read them. I've had the book for about 6 years, and I've just not had the chance to get to it yet.
Yeah, I think, different strokes, different folks. I've had some people that they're like, it's too slow. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't usually tolerate too much slow, but like they're building, it's like plans within plans and political schemes. And I hate politics in real life, but for some reason I really like them in my fiction.
Nice. Well, one bonus question is where can my listeners find out all about yourself and everything you've got going on?
I think it's all at johnnybtruantbooks.com. I think there's links to pretty much everything. I mean, the Kickstarter isn't, but by the time this comes out, and these are authors anyway. So, but pretty much everything's at johnnybtruantbooks.com.
Perfect. And that's a wrap. So thank you so much, Johnny, for coming onto the show and spending some time with me.
Yeah, super fun conversation. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And thank you to everyone listening. Thank you for being here. If today's conversation has sparked something inside of you, go and do something with it. That's the whole point. And if you want to go deeper, whether that's with your writing, your process, or actually finishing your book, head on over to danielwilcox.com/writers. There's a growing list of resources for you over there. And until next time, my friends, write bravely and dream big. Thanks again, Johnny.
Thank you.